you're watching, the buck stops here, and the big story tonight, the contentious ordinance that made the government look like it's protecting convicted politicians is now been thrown out. In fact, maybe it'll be torn up and shredded to bits, just as Rahul Gandhi said it should be. On the program tonight, where Rahul's wish is the UPA government's command. The government has decided to not just withdraw the ordinance, but also kill the bill that is currently the property of Parliament. The UPA allies are asking why the government acted in such a hurry to bring through the ordinance to begin with if it had to withdraw it. The BJP is even sharper. It's saying this is an example of dynasty over the institution of the Prime Minister. On the buck stops here today, Rahul Gandhi, of course, meets the Prime Minister before the decision is announced, also expresses regret for his outburst coming just 2 hours before the Prime Minister was to meet Barack Obama. But we'll be asking a question that goes beyond this ordinance debate. Is this a sign of a generational shift in the Congress party? Is this the end of the Manmohan Singh era and the beginning of the Rahul Gandhi one? Or will Rahul's interventions remain erratic? Also coming up on the program later, Manmohan Singh and Nawaz Sharif may have had just one little agreement that the Director General of Military Operations of both countries will meet to discuss how to reduce tensions along the line of control, but even that sounds like something that has no meaning, given the continuous firing that's taking place at the line of control in an operation and an encounter with infiltrating militants that has now gone on for 9 days. That's coming up on the program tonight.
Any violation of territorial integrity, any attempt of infiltration will never be accepted by us.
Manmohan Singh and Nawaz Sharif may have agreed to reduce tensions along the line of control, but the line of control is hot and it has been for the last 9 days. Let's go across to Sudhir Ranjan Sen for our news break tonight. Sudhir, the details we have is that in the Kiran sector, which is north of Kupwara in Jammu and Kashmir, for the past 9 days, the army has been locked in a ferocious operation where even as we speak, there has been continuous firing all day long. Indian soldiers are 200 meters from the line of control. They're ahead of the line of control fence. Indian soldiers have suffered 5 injuries. The freshest injury was yesterday. The bodies of the militants who came in are missing. There is also an apprehension that Pakistanis may have come in and taken these bodies back. Now, what's very important is that the Corps Commander is speaking, Sudhi, of the fact that these infiltrations or these intruders have received the backing of what he's calling special troops, though he's not drawing a conclusion on whether these were Pakistani troops. What are the details you have?
Well, Barka, to begin with, this starts on the 24th and 25th intervening night when there is about 40 odd people, we are told, try to infiltrate through the Kiran sector, and that is when they are engaged. They are stopped, before the fence. One division more or less moves in, or a huge number of troops move in. That has been continuing for 9 days. And interestingly, what I have been able to pick up from my sources in the ministry out here is that the 15 Corps at least has sent up one report saying that during these 9 days, there have been an attempt to resupply them with weapons, with food, and with other perhaps with medical supplies also, clearly indicating, as the general had said today, that there was perhaps special forces giving them cover, giving them fire cover to the terrorists, although he did not go the whole hog and blame Pakistan. The reports indicate that definitely there is some kind of support from across the border. Barka.
All right, let's just play those images of Nawaz Sharif and Manmohan Singh. And they were meeting in New York. It was a meeting that I actually reported on. It was a meeting that came against the backdrop of a huge controversy. But here's the irony, that at that moment that picture was taken, at that moment that picture was taken, this operation was ongoing. And if you talk about being resupplied from possibly Pakistani troops on the other side, then that makes the optics of this meeting look even more controversial, look even more contentious, because the only thing that the two sides agreed to in this meeting was for the DGMOs to meet to reduce the tension along the line of control, and the Prime Minister saying that LOC's tranquility is a prerequisite for any normalization. Now, what are your sources saying to you about the role of Pakistani troops here? There were even media reports this morning that 3 Indian posts had been occupied by Pakistan Army, the Indian Army, of course, saying this is nonsense.
Well, to begin with, Barka, we haven't been able to pick up anything which suggests, that any Indian post or any part of Indian ground has been, captured or being controlled by either the terrorists or from anybody from Pakistan. Both the Home Ministry, which keeps a very sharp eye on this, and the Defence Ministry denying both. But vis-a-vis the line of control, if you look at what has happened over the last several months, yes, the ceasefire agreement is virtually being virtually non-existent. The number of ceasefire violations that have happened, the number of the attempts that have been made to infiltrate, much higher this year than we have seen previously. What we are being told is that with 2014 coming up, there is a very deliberate attempt that is being made from the other side to keep Kashmir burning, to keep incidents of terror happening within India. Barkha.
Sudhir Ranjan Sen on the news break on the buck stops here tonight. A fierce encounter going on 200 meters from the line of control. Indian soldiers facing continuous engagement from the other side. This as the Prime Minister of India and Pakistan talk about reducing tensions along the line of control. Terrible optics, as it were, for that meeting, given that we now know that this encounter was on even as the two Prime Ministers were meeting in New York. Thanks for joining us, Sudhir, on the buck stops here. Moving on now to our other big story tonight, and that's, of course, Rahul Gandhi's got his way. Sunil Prabhu is joining us now for the details that are emerging on not just that ordinance to protect convicted politicians being withdrawn, but even the bill that's in Parliament is now going to be killed. And Sunil, it would seem that Rahul Gandhi is on the right side of public opinion, but the decision he took has not come without its share of criticism. The BJP saying it's an example of dynasty prevailing over the Prime Minister, and our sources telling us that even at that cabinet meeting today, someone as senior as Sharad Pawar making the point that this ordinance should never have been pushed through in such a hurry if it had to be withdrawn. Sources saying Sharad Pawar making the point that the institution of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet have been undermined. Sunil, go ahead.
Well, definitely this was reflected, the haste in which the Cabinet went ahead with this entire decision. That's the point that Sharad Pawar tried to address, saying that the legislature needs to have and not be undermined at any stage, making it clear on his part that somewhere down the line mistakes have been taking place. We shouldn't walk into an opposition trap. And Mr. Pawar also raising the issue of the right to reject, clearly saying there has to be a delicate balance in all institutions, and definitely what has happened does not augur well for anybody, and clearly it has been a big embarrassment for the UPA government, but nevertheless they want to be seen on the right side of the fence, and in this time round, especially in the election year, that's the reason why they've decided to withdraw that ordinance and the bill.
Suri, let me ask you, the question now is political. The debate is no longer around the ordinance is dead, the bill will be dead. The question is political. One of the big criticisms of Rahul Gandhi has been that his interventions are erratic. The second criticism is that this is a one-man veto of a government and a core group decision. That would even work, considering that the Congress was heading for its political harakiri had it gone ahead with this ordinance, if Rahul Gandhi was going to make sustained, regular, proactive interventions. Are you picking up from him that he's going to be doing that now?
Well, I think the writing is on the wall, Barkha, and he understands it. These interventions that took place, they have nevertheless created a huge cause of embarrassment, not only for him, but for his party and for his government, and as well as for his mother, who's the Congress president. Of course, now they have been able to, as you rightly said, do damage control, and the ordinance is now history. It's going to be withdrawn, and all that it requires is the formal letter that needs to be written by the Prime Minister to the President, and this will happen when the President returns. But definitely Rahul Gandhi needs to be stand up and to be counted, to take a proactive role in these Congress core group meetings that take place, as well as in the party. He's the Congress Vice President. He needs to ensure that there's a greater synergy between the party and the government, because I think once you're lucky, the second time you're not going to be. And clearly he understands that, and one way or the other, his voice that has to be heard in a dignified manner, in a mature manner, not in words like torn and thrown, this is nonsense. There has to be words like reconsider, there have to be words like I have attempted to do it in the Youth Congress, and all these correct cliched words that are required in the political spectrum so as to be seen as a right kind of leader. And I think this is really the learning curve for him, and hopefully he would understand that he doesn't get away the next time round.
Sunil Prabhu, thanks for joining us, and that's the question now on the Buck Stops Here debate tonight. Thanks very much, Sunil. That's the question. Will Rahul Gandhi learn from this entire episode? The question before him is his intervention going to mark a generational shift? Is this an illustration of the new young Turks speaking up, or is this an example of one man's veto power over the government, leaving the government and the party undermined? Let's introduce our panel this evening. From the Congress, we're joined by senior spokesperson and leader Abhishek Singhvi. From the BJP, from Mumbai tonight, joining us is the BJP's Mahesh Jethmalani, who's also, of course, a senior advocate. From Orissa tonight, joining us is Jay Panda of the Biju Janata Dal. I have to say, before all of this happened, Jay was one of those who actually criticized any amendments and the bill itself, and criticized taking on the Supreme Court on this. And also joining us from Delhi tonight, Yogendra Yadav, political analyst and member with the Aam Aadmi Party. Abhishek Singhvi, here's the question. Rahul Gandhi may be on the right side of public opinion, but had it been not Rahul Gandhi, but let's say somebody else, a non-Gandhi, Sachin Pilot, Jyotiraditya Scindia, or Milind Deora, who did in fact make the same comment, would they have had the power to overturn a government or a cabinet decision? While this is the correct decision, and everybody thinks this is the correct decision, that the ordinance should be junked, the process and the manner that has led up to it, it has embarrassed everybody, from Ajay Maken, whose press conference was actually taken over by Rahul Gandhi as he was defending the ordinance, countless ministers who had to defend the ordinance, people like yourselves who had to defend the ordinance, and then Rahul Gandhi says, think otherwise and all of you do. So my question is, had it not been a Gandhi and had it been somebody else who made this criticism, would the Prime Minister have listened?
Barkha, very long question, and you have lots of views against me, against the Congress. Give me a couple of minutes to answer. You have to make a sharp distinction between the merits of the decision and all the other politics surrounding its manner of announcement. Now, first thing is, there is a view, and has been a view in the party. A lot of us have talked about it in the party, we can't talk on channels about it, that the Supreme Court struck it down on constitutional grounds of discrimination, and short of a constitutional amendment or removing the discriminatory aspect, no bill could cure it. Another point of view was that since the bill provided for a stay by a court, it is valid. Now there are 2 points of view you could respect, but there was a clear division. I think the frank answer to your second part of your question is, it would not have happened perhaps with the Sachin Pilot or Jyotir Scindia, because we are talking of the Vice President of the party or the President of the party. They occupy a different position. Don't talk of them as only Gandhi or family. They occupy a position in the party, the Vice President of the party. That's point number 1. Let's be frank there. But if you agree, as all of you are agreeing for the last several programs, that it's the right decision, give some credence to a person who has the courage of his convictions to speak out. There was a view in the party behind party doors, and he spoke out.
Okay.
And I think infallibility or illusions of infallibility is one of the greatest human failings. So I think to recognize that there is a fallibility in the party is a virtue.
Okay.
Now let me go further and concede. One second. Let me see. Look, just one sec.
Okay.
Let me concede further against myself, Barkha, that the manner of doing it and timing of doing it and all those things could be different. But
so you do acknowledge,
I don't think anybody who knows
the manner and the timing was a problem. You do acknowledge that the manner and timing were possibly a problem. The Prime Minister indicated that as well.
Let me complete the sentence. Let me complete the sentence before you try to extract an admission out of me. Anybody who knows Rahul Gandhi or saw the press conference knows that he spoke his mind out forthrightly. There was not a vestige of an intention of him to insult the Prime Minister, one major accusation, or to insult the whole system and cabinet, a second major accusation. It was, yes, a brutally frank statement, and he repeated it twice, saying, if you ask my personal opinion, this is it. I think there is some credit to be given there, although I do believe that the mistake happened that when we had referred it to a committee on the dual views I have told you, it could have been left to lie rather than move an ordinance of all things, which is beyond a bill, and on emergent circumstances. So I think this is the context. But let's not, if the ultimate decision is meritorious, give some credit there. After all, the BJP, as Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani has frankly considered other television channels, initially was largely on the same page with us, entirely on the same page with us, except the reference to a committee. It then changed its mind, perhaps tried to earn brownie points. We also made a mistake.
Okay, I think you made a number of points.
An amount of magnanimity in this. Yes, you are all, of course, interpreting this press conference as a deliberate insult, a unseating, that whole theory falls to the ground.
I can just tell you,
Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi
I can
have a
just tell
perfect
you,
working
excuse
relationship.
me, 1 minute.
Contrary to all the doubting Thomases.
May I just say that I was in Washington watching what happened 2 hours before the Prime Minister was to meet Barack Obama, and Rahul Gandhi's press statement actually rendered the Prime Minister's America trip, or at least that day on it, almost irrelevant. So it did have that impact. But let's come to the point of this discussion. Mahesh Jethmalani, the BJP accused of double speak. Kamal Nath quoting specific dates, August 1st and August 13th, saying at the all-party meeting, the BJP too was of the same mind as the Congress. At the very least, the BJP was in favor of sending the ordinance to a standing committee of parliament. Now the Congress wants to kill the bill as well. The BJP never said that. The BJP never wanted this bill to be buried. So hasn't the Congress gone further than the BJP, while the BJP now seems confused? Rahul Gandhi may have stolen your thunder.
No, Barkha, I think if you look at the sequence of facts, the BJP did not oppose the introduction of the bill, a point on which I have conceded, as Abhishek said. We were quite remiss, we should have done it. The BJD, Jay Panda's party, for instance, did do that, and I saluted him yesterday on another channel for doing that, his party for doing that. But the BJP ensured that the bill was not passed in Parliament by getting it referred to a standing committee. Now, having done that, the Congress party in turn, because they wanted to save Lalu, and there's no other reason, because an ordinance is only when, as Abhishek points out, there are really very emergent circumstances demanding the promulgation of a presidential ordinance when Parliament is not in session. Yeah. The only reason why they did it was to save Lalu and Rashid Masood. So the BJP stymied the passing of the bill. The response of the Congress was to pass the ordinance, and the ordinance was totally malified for the reasons I just gave you. Now, as far as Rahul Gandhi's role is concerned, the facts are eloquent. The Supreme Court passes a judgment saying that convicted MPs should stand disqualified from the date of conviction. Rahul Gandhi doesn't welcome the judgment. Yeah. His party and his government introduce a bill in Parliament. He doesn't oppose that. His party passes an ordinance, for some time he's silent. He finally opens his mouth and opposes only the ordinance, not the bill. The climax about opposition to the bill was yesterday. Rahul Gandhi has only said the ordinance should be torn up, and that, he says, when the president showed a disinclination to promulgate the ordinance because it was clearly nullified. The president would not have been able to justify it if it was challenged, and judicial review does lie against an ordinance in a court of law.
But can I ask you, Mahesh?
It is at that point that Rahul Gandhi stepped in. Yes. And just one last point, Barkha. Finally, I hope that this is not a generational change in Congress politics, because apart from all these factors, the extremely offensive language used by Rahul Gandhi shows that he is lacking in both gravitas and sagacity, I'm sorry to say.
But don't you think the ordinance is nonsense? Why do you find that word problematic?
I think the ordinance is nullified and it should have been withdrawn. I don't say the ordinance should have been torn. Rahul Gandhi should remember what happened in UP when he said the SP party manifesto should be torn. He brought the SP back to power.
Okay, I'll take that back to Abhishek in just a second, but Jay, let's get you in. You can draw some and in fact more than some comfort from the fact that you've had an absolutely consistent position, whereas everybody else has been modifying their position as they go along. First, even the BJP, which opposed the ordinance but did not actually oppose the bill. Now, what are we seeing happen here? Are we seeing a watershed moment for Indian politics where public perception can actually drive parties to break the status quo, or are we actually seeing a complicated internal power dynamics of the Congress play out, the end of the Manmohan Singh era, the beginning of the Rahul Gandhi time?
Barkha, I'll answer that in a moment, but first I want to thank you and I want to thank Mahesh Jethmalani for acknowledging that right from day one, my party and I and other colleagues, we welcomed the Supreme Court judgment. We did not participate in the all-party meeting consensus. We opposed the consensus and we opposed the bill in the House and of course the ordinance. Now, when my friend Abhishek Singhvi asks for a bit more magnanimity, I would ask him of the same thing. Magnanimity would go towards your party acknowledging that some of us were fighting a lonely battle for many weeks, and we wish that Mr. Rahul Gandhi had stepped in early and supported those efforts. That would have really been the mark of a leader and a statesman. But anyway, all's well that ends well. I think what he did
The fact is, this is a bad bill. I would also call it nonsense. I would also call it outrageous.
Yeah.
But the reality is that this did actually come about because of pressure from the public. And by the way, there are other parties, for example, the one represented by Yogendra Yadav, who's also on this panel, who are not in parliament, but they have been opposing it from outside, and also
Yes.
other parties.
Yes.
So this is a crucial moment when I think, for whatever reason, the Congress party felt the heat of public opinion. And I think it's a turning point. Now, yes, we can argue that there were rumors that the president was going to reject it.
Yes.
But, in the absence of any concrete information, whether the president would have rejected it or not rejected it, it is clear that the party and its vice president felt the heat of public opinion. And when politicians begin to feel the heat of public opinion, I think it's a good thing for democracy.
Before I get Yogendra in, Abhishek Singhvi, I think Jay has a very important point. The Biju Janata Dal had a declared position on this issue. Rahul Gandhi could have taken the cue from them and say, you know what, I support you. He did not. His intervention was
That's what he
belated.
did.
His intervention was
That's what he
belated.
did, yes.
Why was it
Yes,
belated?
I agree. I agree. But what he did was exactly that, against a government and against an alliance which had taken that decision.
Not just
Which means
alliance,
that
the
he
core
committed
group.
in
The core
public
group.
one
Let's
side.
not isolate the party from this decision, Abhishek. This
Barkha,
decision
allow
was
me,
core
allow
group on the
me,
21st of
Barkha.
September.
Barkha, please allow me.
Yes.
Please allow me. Barkha, you review decisions and you set aside decisions only because they are wrong. You take decisions contrary to the earlier decision only because the earlier decision has been taken. So obviously the core group and the government and the cabinet did take a decision. Obviously he is calling something nonsense. Obviously he has called it wrong. So I mean, that's the fact of the matter. And let me not run away from that. The real point is, none of you, I mean not the others, I mean no channel, nobody else is actually dealing with the merits. Most people are saying it's a good decision. Well then, I think the dialectics, and that's the point I made elsewhere and I made partly earlier, the dialectics of public opinion reaching through, but obviously articulated by a high functionary of the party and thereby leading to change, is the essence of democracy.
Okay, 1 minute.
I mean, we can be stubborn in saying, look, we are infallible, we will not change and we are right.
Okay.
There is a mistake, or at least a perception of a mistake. I mean, there is no absolute in this because there were two
Let me
views
just
of
get
the
Yogendra
ordinance,
in.
but certainly the predominant view was this.
Yogendra Yadav, your party indeed was also one of those parties who in fact said, why just the ordinance? It's the bill that needs to be killed as well. The bill has been killed. Do you think there's merit in what Abhishek is saying? That if a politician belatedly acknowledges a mistake and takes the right decision, that should be lauded instead of deconstructing whether this was dynasty, whether this was one man's veto power, whether the Prime Minister was embarrassed. Is any of that relevant?
In some ways, what has happened today is a triumph of democracy, and persons matter much less, the issue matters much more. Yes, someone called nonsense and nonsense, and that should be acknowledged. We must of course salute Jayapanda's party, CPM and other parties, and I'm very grateful that you mentioned our small party in that context as well. But are we surprised that Rahul Gandhi prevails in Congress party? Did we expect anything else to happen? Now there's absolutely no doubt that this was very poorly timed, it was anything but spontaneous, that it was terribly short on propriety. But the fact is that someone articulated what millions of people in this country felt. People were outraged, and someone happened to have said it, no matter who said it, no matter when they said it. And therefore, rather than look at it as triumph of one person, one particular thing, it is a triumph of the Aam Aadmi. The question is it a turning point?
Yeah.
I'm less confident than Jayapanda is. I'm less confident because if I look back and see, did Rahul Gandhi say something when the massive corruption scandals were taking place? Did he say that Congress party's conduct on the Jan Lokpal thing was nonsensical? Did he say that the handling of Colgate has been shameful? Forget the past, think of the future. Will Rahul Gandhi come and say, Congress party cannot give ticket to one single criminal? Do we expect that?
Yeah.
If something of this kind happens, yes, I would call that a turning point. But is that going to happen? I'm not too sure. All that has happened is that the public saw that the entire political establishment, minus a few exceptions, but certainly including the BJP, was mocking at the people.
Okay.
And this had to be stopped, and this got stopped. So yes, people trumped.
Mahesh Jethmalani, here's the point for the BJP. You were candid enough to say that the BJP did not initially oppose the bill. In fact, the BJP debated it intensely within its own ranks and finally said that the bill should be referred to the standing committee. You're valid in saying that postponed a kind of decision, but it did not really show the BJP to be standing up for a principle. In fact, the Congress is pointing to Gujarat and saying that there are ministers like Babubhai Bokaria who have been convicted, who still continue to be part of the Gujarat government. So therefore, the BJP too has questions to answer on whether this was really standing up for a principle.
Well, I can't do more than say, Barkha, that the BJP was remiss in not opposing the introduction of the bill. We were remiss. We should have opposed it like the BJD did from the very outset. I wish that had been the party position. It wasn't. But we made up for it very soon by ensuring that the bill was not passed. We wanted a debate, and the way to scuttle the passage of the bill was to refer it to a standing committee. We did that. And then we opposed the ordinance tooth and nail. So I mean, alright, so we didn't act optimally, but we certainly did the next best thing.
But Mahesh, what about the other judgment? It's interesting that nobody is speaking about the other Supreme Court judgment, which actually all of you have agreed to take on, which is that people, those in custody should be able to contest elections. Now, I've heard all the arguments about that. I've heard that it's because, you can be arrested for political reasons and so on. But the point of the matter is that that too, in the public eye, is designed to shield those who have criminal antecedents. Abhishek, I'll come to you in a second. Mahesh, first you. Nobody's even talking about that other judgment.
But those who are in custody but had not faced a trial, I mean, they're presumed to be innocent. The distinction between somebody who's convicted and somebody, look, the agencies in this country, Barkha, if you have any insider knowledge of the way they function, I mean, particularly the agencies like the CBI and the NIA, they are prone to subversion by the ruling party of the day. And I'm not going to be partisan. I'm going to say that all political parties do it in some manner or the other. If it's not the CBI or the NIA, it's the center, it's the state police in the states. Everybody has that temptation and doesn't desist from it. So it's only natural that at least you are presumed to be innocent, particularly in the light of the kind of investigating that goes on in this country.
Okay.
The distinction between somebody who's convicted is that the presumption goes. He is now a convict, and therefore the onus is on him. And for frivolous convictions, the Supreme Court judgment has carved out an exception. And I'm not going to go into it, we can debate another day, but Babulal Bokharia's case is covered by that exception. The congressman have not read the judgment in its entirety. It's technical. I don't want to go into it right now, but if you want, we can debate it at another stage.
Okay, Jay is wanting to come in, then I'll take it back to Abhishek and Yogendra. Jay, on this other judgment, do you believe that political parties have ganged up here as well, or do you believe that there's merit in saying that a person who's under trial is innocent until proven guilty?
There are quite substantial differences. Please recall that when there was a move to get the Supreme Court to reconsider these judgments, the Supreme Court indicated it was willing to reconsider this particular judgment that you are talking about, but it was not willing to reconsider the judgment about convicted MPs. The reason is you can be in custody for a traffic accident, you can be in custody for a domestic dispute where you can ultimately be proven innocent. So, even if you're in custody for a week and then you're prevented from contesting elections, that goes against the Constitution. So, since the Supreme Court itself showed indication that it was open to reconsidering that part of it, I don't think that is a serious issue. The serious issue is convicted MPs or MLAs must be kept out of Parliament, and also convictions or trials rather must be speeded up, because we know cases go on for 10, 15 years or longer. So, I have been advocating, I have introduced private members' bills that for criminal cases against elected officials, we must have fast-track courts which give judgments within 90 to 180 days. That is the real solution.
Abhishek Singhvi, I want to come back to the political point. Is this a generational shift across parties and within the Congress? Here's the point. Almost everybody, including you, though you're not saying it in so many words, agree with the substance of Rahul Gandhi's position, but not with the style. Not with the form, but with the substance is how I would put it. It is being compared by some to that moment in January 1987 when Rajiv Gandhi sacked his foreign secretary at a press conference. People are saying that there's a certain amount of imperiousness in how Rahul Gandhi approached the politics of his own party. And I remind you again that this decision also included his own mother, the Congress president, who certainly is a higher functionary than the vice president. So when you underline the hierarchical position that Rahul Gandhi occupies compared to a Milind Deora and a Sachin Pilot, are you being aren't you being a little ingenuous here? Because really it has nothing to do with hierarchy, because Sonia Gandhi also took this decision.
No, you see, fallibility is no respecter of persons. Fallibility is no, there is a collectivity about it. The decision was collective. It was not by Sonia Gandhi, by Prime Minister or by one person. It was a collective decision. Now there has been a persistent public opinion against it. Perhaps it took a bit of time for that to sink in, and for a variety of reasons, the crucial part of which is not being talked about because it's considered technical. There is, the fallibility arises from where, which you don't discuss on this channel because you make it very political, Barkha. The fallibility arises from the possible continuation of discrimination, which is the essence of the Supreme Court judgment on constitutional grounds, on Article 14 and on Article 102, which puts a constitutional pedestal. So whether you can remove that constitutional pedestal by a mere statute at all or by an ordinance is a major issue. And I think that is a valid point which Rahul Gandhi projected so forcefully. But let me come to the form now. I think a lot is being made of that, but just for a moment, anybody who knows the nature and the manner in which he said so, it was very clear that A, the farthest from his mind would be to insult the cabinet of the Prime Minister, which is the one political injection being given. The second is that he was trying to be absolutely arbitrary and, imperious. Well, he said that, look, you want me to be frank? My frank view is this. I think where this theory falls down, and I can understand why the opposition and everybody else would try to, exploit it and make, it makes for good camera copy, it makes for good media. The very
also happens to be true.
That the working
it also happens to be true. The cameras will make it up.
No, of course it's true. I'm not denying the incident. I'm saying the working relationship between these three persons from 2004 has been remarkable. Barkha, you remember very well as a journalist, doomsday scenarios of conflict and remote controls from 10 Janpath to 7 Racecourse Road were rampant from 30th September 2004, 6 months or 4 months after the elections. And they were repeated every 3 months. Well, these three people and these two people earlier have proved all doomsday predictors wrong.
Okay.
And there is a harmonious working relationship, and therefore it doesn't, when the Prime Minister himself said that, look, Sonia Gandhi ought to have been Prime Minister. Let's be very frank, Barkha. When the Prime Minister himself said many times,
but isn't that the problem? Isn't that the problem? I'm sorry, Abhishek. I'm sorry. When the Prime Minister says
there is a
excuse me, when the Prime Minister says
that the Prime Minister is being foisted upon the Congress
let's
party,
also be
Sonia Gandhi is
let's also be
the Prime Minister, and these are all wrong notions.
Yes, but let's also be blunt, since we're all being so frank, that the Prime Minister is in power because Sonia Gandhi decided to put him there, which is why the Prime Minister, in his briefing on the way back from the United States of America, told us journalists, and I asked him this question, I said, don't you feel undermined? And he went on to say, I am not the master of what people say, and I will find out why things had to be done the way they were. Since then, Rahul Gandhi, we believe, apologized when he met him this morning.
How far can you go on with one sentence, Barkha? He said a sentence, I saw it, I heard your interview, but it's okay.
Yogendra Yadav,
I don't think it's a schism or a revolt or a rebellion or a absolute divine way of painting it. That's not at all.
My question is this, Yogendra Yadav. What does it say about the politics of the Congress party today? Because Rahul Gandhi's interventions so far have been quite erratic. They have been intermittent. We heard him speak during the Lokpal debate, where too he had a completely different proposal from his party. This time on the ordinance, he's pushed his point of view through, and rightly so. He's on the right side of public opinion on this. My question is, what do you believe that the Congress is now entering a generational shift? Do you believe this is the political announcement of Rahul Gandhi saying, I have arrived, I'm leading the party into the campaign?
Barkha, this is a much delayed and a typical Indian style clumsy transition from the long delayed regency to Rahul Gandhi now taking over. So yes, if we call that a generational transition, of course the transition is taking place. The question is, will it work? Yes, what Rahul Gandhi said resonated with what people thought that day. But does that make him a darling in the eyes of the people? Does that make people feel, all right, someone has spoken for us? I'm afraid Rahul Gandhi has missed the bus. In politics, Barkha, timing is everything. If Rahul Gandhi had said something to this effect during the Jan Lokpal agitation, when millions of people were out there on the street, if Rahul Gandhi had said to Anna Hazare, I'm with you, I'll fight this system, he would have become darling of the people. People would have said, all right, here is someone who can speak for us. But if you keep silent on 2G, you keep silent on Commonwealth, you keep silent on Colgate, you keep silent on the kind of attitude your government takes, and then belatedly 3 months before the election, 6 months before the election, you issue one random statement, that's unlikely to change public perception. Yes, it means quite a lot within the Congress party. Yes, there is a transition. Does it mean something to the quality of our politics? Are we witnessing a turning point in the way 2014 election will be played out? Are we witnessing a turning point in how political parties will look at criminals? I'm not so sure. Honestly, I'm not sure.
I think Abhishek's wanting to come in there. Abhishek, go ahead.
Just a short point.
Yeah.
Look, the fact that he has said something about something, I don't think we can extrapolate and say that unless he should have said the same thing about ABC, what he has said about this should be ignored or is not meritorious. I think a lot of the issues my friend Mr. Yadav is mentioning are completely different. They are hit by overbreadth. I don't see any reason for Rahul Gandhi to say anything against his own government on, for example, Colgate or 2G, when that own government is very vigorously prosecuting those it thinks is guilty in the two and revealing everything. It is not as if the government, what Mr. Yogendra Yadav appears to think is that Mr. Rahul Gandhi should say XYZ and the government is corrupt and I declare him to be corrupt. Nowhere has the government said so, nowhere has the government tried to protect people, it has prosecuted people whom it thinks are corrupt. So I think that occasion for such kind of generalities doesn't arise. Where Rahul Gandhi thinks it's appropriate, he has spoken up. And the fact that he has not spoken up on issues not to the liking of Aam Aadmi Party or a third party is neither here nor there. They are entitled to their opinion. But that doesn't certainly make Rahul Gandhi suspect on the issue on which he has spoken up.
Alright, Mahesh, the question for you is this. The question is, why did the BJP...
trouble, if I can say...
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
The trouble, Barkha, is that while I listen to very erudite explanation from the Congress spokesperson, but if I was an ordinary person listening to his erudite words, I would say, just in case Rahul Gandhi speaks something about Colgate tomorrow, what would he say on the television channel tomorrow evening? Every Congress spokesperson will come and say, of course it was a fraud, of course we were lying, of course we were cheating. That's the problem. These things do not have that resonance, and that's where your moral authority gets eroded, as it has been in the case of this UPA government. The moral authority is completely eroded today.
Okay, 1 minute. Sushma Swaraj has just tweeted and we're getting those up, and I want to take that to Mahesh before I get Abhishek. DP Tripathi of the Nationalist Congress Party, the NCP, is also joining us. Sushma is saying on Twitter, Mahesh, that in the all-party meeting, 4 choices were placed before us. There were divergent views and no consensus could emerge. After the meeting, she goes on to say, Chidambaram and Kamal Nath both told me that we should send all 4 options to the Standing Committee for thorough deliberation. These are Sushma's tweets. My question to you is, obviously the BJP also saw some merit. So can it really afford to take the higher moral ground? You've already admitted that you hoped that the BJP should have had a better position, but it didn't. So therefore, can it take the moral ground? To that extent, would you concede that Rahul Gandhi took a more categorical position than you did?
No, he didn't. Okay, let's get into this. Let's analyze that, because this will require a little bit of time for the rebuttal. Again, Rahul Gandhi did not welcome the Supreme Court judgment. His response was belated. He only asked for a withdrawal of the ordinance, not the bill. The BJP sent the bill to the Standing Committee. Even until yesterday, when asked repeatedly on channels, Congress spokesperson refused to commit themselves on the bill. They all jumped to Rahul Gandhi's defense only on the ordinance. But as regards the fate of the bill, there was no Congress spokesperson who jumped to who said that the bill will be withdrawn, Barkha. Now forget all that and please see what Abhishek Singhvi is saying and what Yogendra Yadav said. Everybody says that, all right, let's give Rahul the benefit of the doubt. After all, this is a triumph for democracy and he's contributed his might. So he felt the heat of public opinion. But as Yogendra pointed out, did he not feel the heat of public opinion on 2G and
Yeah.
Colgate? Does he have an extremely selective feel of
Okay,
public opinion?
fair question.
That question must arise.
Fair
and
question.
that's what gives rise to my speculation.
Fair questions.
My speculation.
Yeah.
My speculation, 1 minute.
Complete your point, Mahesh. Complete your point, Mahesh. Complete your point.
Yeah, just 1 minute. That's why it leads to my speculation. It's an educated guess that Rahul Gandhi got whiff of the fact that the president would not have promulgated the ordinance, hence his stand, because till today he has not come in public and told us why he opposes the ordinance and does he oppose the bill as well.
Okay, the final tweet from Sushma Swaraj, Abhishek says, after the bill was introduced in the Rajya Sabha, Law Minister Kapil Sibal met Arun and me in my chambers and we made our opposition very categorical and very clear. This is Sushma Swaraj on Twitter. Abhishek Singhvi, go ahead.
Look, that's now very clear that the BJP not only did not oppose the introduction of the bill, but did not oppose the bill for quite a while. Ultimately, a compromise thing was worked out that it should go to the select committee. There was no per se opposition to the existing bill, but I don't want to get into that, Barkha, because we ourselves are saying that this needs a rethink, it's not the right thing. I'm on the other point. I think Mahesh Jethwani has, on Colgate and 2G, repeated what Yogendra Yadav said, and he's therefore wrong for exactly the same reasons. What Rahul Gandhi would say in 2G would be the following, and there will be nothing else he needs to say. Just because the Aam Aadmi Party is opposed to that, he would say, Congress is the only party which, unlike Tehelka, can I just finish? No, you don't need to say it. It's been said by the Congress for the last 1 year, in case you missed it,
So we
and
can
he has
throw
not
them a little
opposed
bit.
it. He agrees with that.
Having you
He
as a
agrees with that.
spokesman, perhaps we can
For
throw
the
them a little
last
bit.
for the last 1 year, he agrees with it. And let me tell you what he agrees with in case you missed it. Congress is the only party, unlike the BJP, which prosecutes those it thinks is guilty, like Mr. Raja and several bureaucrats in 2G, reveals all the files in Colgate, takes the stand that there is no
please.
verifiable
That was
proof of
courtesy the
CAG's
Supreme Court. Don't
suggests a
say
figure of
not you,
176.
Abhishek.
No,
Please don't
is
steal the
prosecuted.
Supreme Court's thunder.
Now, if you want Mr. Rahul Gandhi to get up and say, look, the Prime Minister is guilty of 2G, Mr. Chidambaram is guilty of 2G, your recent joining of the BJP, Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, is all right, and I agree with him. Well, then you got another guest coming, Mahesh, and Mr. Yogendra Yadav.
Okay.
That's of course your view.
Okay, Jay is
That's of
wanting
course
to
the way
make a
he wants
point.
it, but that's not the way Mr. Rahul Gandhi has to speak.
Okay, 1 minute.
You are
1 minute, Jay, you've been very patient, but DP Tripathi of the NCP is joining us, and I want to inform our viewers what Sharad Pawar said at the cabinet today. Let's bring up that graphic. Sources telling us that Sharad Pawar actually said that if the ordinance had to be withdrawn, then why was it brought up in such a hurry to begin with? Sharad Pawar also spoke about how the institution of the cabinet and the post of the Prime Minister were being undermined. DP Tripathi, what is worrying the NCP?
See, I would refuse to talk about what has happened in the cabinet. That is for the cabinet members to discuss. I would not go by the sources. But one thing I know, we have very categorically stated our position that the coordination committee meeting should have been held. We should have discussed it, and this was done in a hurry, and allies feel embarrassed. And we were the first political party who talked about the embarrassment. Praful Patel, speaking on behalf of NCP, said that it would have been done in a better way. What is the fact? The fact, Barkha, is that we approved the bill. We also said that the bill should go to the standing committee for consideration. After that, we approved the promulgation of ordinance as UPA constituents. That is a fact. And now we have unanimously approved the withdrawal of
But
the
what embarrassed you?
and as well as the bill.
Mr.
The
Tripathi,
embarrassment.
yeah, what is the embarrassment?
The embarrassment has been caused because of the lack of the democratic coalitional functioning. Coalition functions everywhere through a coordination committee.
Yeah.
The coordination committee was formed after great struggle and demand by the allies, including us. After persistent demand, the meeting of coordination committee was not held, which is a forum to express our views. How do you expect us to oppose the government of the day and the Prime Minister in a cabinet meeting?
Okay, I've got time for just
We
two
believe
last
in-
comments. You've been very strong. You've been very
Yes.
categorical. Abhishek Singhvi, is Rahul Gandhi so important that the coordination committee doesn't need to be held?
I think the simple point there is that what was decided by the cabinet, yes, had to be undone by the cabinet, and it's the cabinet which has undone it today, and the cabinet process has been followed.
DP Tripathi, do you agree with that? That
Yes,
the cabinet process was
can't be
followed?
bypassed.
DP Tripathi, do you agree that the cabinet process has been
Cabinet
followed?
can't be bypassed. That can't be bypassed.
Mr. Singhvi is absolutely correct there. If cabinet has done something, if it is to be undone, cabinet has to do it.
But you're embarrassed
Therefore, the
today.
cabinet has
But as
taken
an
it.
ally, you're embarrassed.
Of course.
You're embarrassed today, DP
Yes,
Tripathi.
of course.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. We should face the facts. These are facts. And in future, we must follow the proper coalitional democratic functioning
Yeah.
so that no LIE or no party is embarrassed. I think all constituents of UP are embarrassed because we all approved the ordinance and we are all approving the withdrawal of the ordinance and the bill.
All right.
Rightly so.
All right, Sushma Swaraj is going on, clarifying her position on Twitter. Her final line is that we oppose the bill and we oppose the ordinance. What the Congress is spreading since morning is complete falsehood, but I don't have time. Jay, I'll give you 30 seconds. Last word.
Well, the cabinet obviously is going through the motions of what has been decided at the level of the Vice President and higher. When the Congress spokesperson was saying what Rahul Gandhi would say on the Colgate scam, I found it amusing because clearly Congress spokespeople have no clue what Rahul Gandhi is going to say. For the last several weeks they have been defending the ordinance, and then everything, as Ajay Makhan found out, it was quite embarrassing. But if Mr. Gandhi wants to make a serious point that he is reflecting public opinion, then he can't be hit and run. He can't just hit on an issue and run away. There are many other issues. Forget about the past. I can understand in the past he may not have spoken up, but there are many current issues like political parties under RTI, for instance. It's a current issue that's agitating the public. He should take a stand on it.
So no hit and run politics. The next time he does this, he may not be taken seriously unless this is the consistent intervention or a phase of consistent intervention from Rahul Gandhi. Is he stepping up to the plate and beginning to lead the party? We'll find out soon enough. We'll leave it there. Abhishek Singhvi, Mahesh Jethmalani, Jay Panda, Yugendra Yadav, DP Tripathi. Thank you so much for joining us on The Buck Stops Here. We're taking a quick break. Then from the ground, the latest on the continuous firing at the line of control. On The Buck Stops Here, before we end, the latest from the line of control where Indian soldiers have been facing continuous firing from across the border. They're now just 200 meters from the LOC. This is in the Kirun sector where an operation has been on for the last 9 days. And what's important is that even as Nawaz Sharif and Manmohan Singh were discussing bringing down tensions at the LOC, this operation was in full swing. In fact, the Corps Commander now talking about the infiltrators receiving special backing from Pakistan Special Forces. He indicated that, though he didn't draw an absolute conclusion. Zafar Iqbal sending us this special report.
Thermal images of an infiltration last week. The encounter entered its 9th day today. The army describing it as a massive infiltration. But the army general in charge today said that they have good reason to believe that Pakistani Special Forces were backing the 40 to 45 terrorists.
This was a bad action come infiltration. The number of militants who had attempted this was rather large.
Army has ruled out any occupation of a village or their post by Pakistanis, but what's clear that it's a big infiltration bid and it might take some more days for the operation to be completed.
The army quickly established a cordon with about a division engaging the infiltrators right next to the LOC and are closing in. They have ruled out some media reports about an Indian village, Sala Batu, at the LOC being occupied.
There is no village in this area of the cordon. Secondly, you said some posts have been occupied. I find it absolutely absurd.
The infiltration and encounter is significant not just for its sheer scale but also that it happened around the time that the Prime Minister told his Pakistani counterpart that peace along the line of control is a precondition for normalization of ties between India and Pakistan. With Zafar Iqbal in Srinagar, in New Delhi, Shruti Ranjan Sen for NDTV.
We'll be keeping a close eye on that story, and that brings us to the end of the program tonight. Remember that image of Nawaz Sharif and Manmohan Singh in New York? Well, as they were meeting, there was firing going on at the LOC, and that operation is now in its 9th day. We'll bring you the latest tomorrow night. Thanks for watching from all of us here. Good night.